Havana Shira, Shir Hallelujah, Havana Shira, Shir Hallelujah, Havana Shira, Shir Hallelujah, Havana Shira, Shir Hallelujah. Sing out loud and sing out proud. Lift your voices up in song and know we all belong. With each breath we praise the name. You and I are much the same. Together we exist as one. We exist as one. Havana Shira, Shir Hallelujah, Havana Shira, Shir Hallelujah, Havana Shira, Shir Hallelujah, Havana Shira, Shir Hallelujah.
Shabbat Shalom, and this is our Refugee Shabbat, which is nationally sponsored by HIAS, and we'll talk a little more about it as we get into the service, but that explains the background that you see here for me. And let's begin with Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Baruchuni L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tzedchem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yananai Nai Nai Nai, Yananai Nai Nai Nai, Yanai Nai 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 Nai,
Let's continue now with Shalom Aleichem. I'm sorry, we just did Shalom. With L'chun Ranina.
L'chun Ranina l'Adonai nariya l'tzur yishenu. L'chun Ranina l'Adonai nariya l'tzur yishenu. Nekad b'avai נהריה לו, לכו נרננה לאדוני, נהריה לצור ישנו, לכו נרננה לאדוני, נהריה לצור ישנו. 40 שנה קופידור, ואומרם תוי לבבם, והם לא ידעו דרכי, אשר נשבעתי ואפי, אם יבואו למנוחתי.
And let's continue with the chant of Or Zarua. I've put the PDF into the box if you'd like to follow the prayer book on your own. It's there. You can just click on that. But we're on page 16, the last 4 lines. And just as a request, not an absolute, but if you can turn on your camera, that would be really helpful for us just to make sure we know who's here. And we can all wave and say hello to everybody. But if you don't, you don't. So let's continue now with Lecha Dodi. We'll be doing the first and last 2 verses of Lecha Dodi. When we reach the final verse, of course, feel free to go to the door and welcome the Shabbat bride on your own.
ברכה. מראש מקדם ניסוחה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תעריצי. אל יד איש בהן פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי ושלום את הרפלה, גם בשמחה ובצוחלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי.
Let's take a deep breath and think for a moment of all of those millions who at this moment are homeless, are between countries, are not at home in their own country, people who are refugees, and how our own ancestors had to find their way to this country from different routes and different ways. And I wondered if maybe if you'd like to contribute into the chat the dates when your forebearers arrived on these shores, approximate, and where. And if you have an incredible story to tell about that, you can raise your hand electronically and let me know. In the meantime, I would love to have a volunteer to read Emma Lazarus's poem, which I'm about to put up on the screen. Would anyone like to do that? Thank you, Bob. All right, hold on. Okay.
Not like the brazen giant of Greek fame, with conquering limbs astride from land to land, here at our sea-washed sunset gates shall stand a mighty woman with a torch whose flame is the imprisoned lightning and her name. Mother of exiles, from her beacon hand glows worldwide welcome. Her mild eyes command the air-bridged harbor that wins cities' frame. Keep ancient lands your storied palm, cries she, with silent lips. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door.
Thank you. That was beautiful. Really, really appreciate it. So I see from Nancy, paternal grandparents arrived from Germany, 1936, via Ellis Island. What a story that must be. Eileen, your grandmother, you mean you weren't born like in the chapel of Temple Bethel? No. I think my grandmother came here on her own about 1906. Jerry and Bracha, Dad, came 1940 after escaping from Poland shortly after Hitler and Stalin divided it. Fran, mother, 1939 with parents. Father, 1940 after spending a year in England from the kinder transport. Oh, that was Jeff's, okay. Amanda, mother's father, born in Palestine, worked in a Rothschild vineyard. Early 1900s. Marcia, paternal grandparents from Lomza, Poland. Amanda, my mother's mother from Warsaw at age 13. There are so many stories. But if anyone just wants to elaborate a little bit on their story, like if there's a story behind the story.
Yeah, I could go on.
Go ahead, Bob.
In fact, it was today I was reviewing a passport. It's a Polish passport of my grandfather, my grandmother, and my two youngest aunt and uncle. The other two, my father being one of them, were probably old enough to have their own passports, but I don't have those. They arrived in Argentina in 1937 after having left Germany to go to Florence, Italy, where my youngest uncle was actually bar mitzvah at a temple which the Nazis then used as horse stables, in which the Jewish community rebuilt. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful synagogue in Florence. From there, they went from the fire into the frying pan and went to Poland in 1936. Don't ask me why. I don't know that part of the story. And from Poland, they left from the port of Gdynia, which is not far from Gdansk, and went to Argentina. And my father being of age and his brother being of age, they made the minion. And that was that story.
And you came to America when?
1960 from Argentina.
Wow. It's an amazing American story. And that's exactly what we need to do at a service like this, to appreciate our stories so that we can then further appreciate the need to help others with theirs. So let's continue, and please continue to put things into the chat if you want, because we have lots of stories to tell. But now the Psalm of Gratitude, Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Psalm 92.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, ולזמר לשמך עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך ואמונתך בלילות, עלי עשור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מה גדלו מעשיך מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך, מה גדלו מעשיך מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. צדיק כתמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובו דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולה תבוא. הללויה,
Hallelujah.
הללויה,
Hallelujah.
הללויה.
Okay. So let's continue now with the Baruch Hu, the call to prayer, as we rise in body or spirit.
That wasn't up
Page 39.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bebaruch.
Please be seated unless you're the statue right behind me. You can stay standing.
Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives. Ma'ariv aravim, amen. Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives. Ma'ariv aravim, amen. Sacred words, even the evenings. Wisdom opens gates locked around our hearts. Asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chokhmah poteah she'arim. Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives. Ma'ariv aravim, amen. Evening, the evenings, evening the frayed edges of our lives. Ma'ariv aravim, amen. Uma'avir yom u'mevil layla, umavdil ben yom u'ben layla. Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid yamloch aleinu le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv aravim.
Amen. Let's continue now with Havat Olam as we look at some of these incredible stories that people are leaving in the chat, and think of this embrace of love of Havat Olam as being reflective of the embrace of our country at its best when we've welcomed refugees.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha ahavta, Amcha ahavta. Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadta, otanu לימדת. על כן אדוני אלוהינו בשוכבנו ובקומנו נשיח בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נהגה יומם ולילה נהגה יומם ולילה ואהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל אוהב עמו ישראל שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Continue with the Shema.
Adonai Elohechem
And now let's continue with, on this refugee Shabbat, the song of the refugees from Egypt, Mi Chamocha.
ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכהנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות אוסף אלה נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. And won't you help me sing these songs of freedom, all I ever had, redemption song. מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע הים לפני משה ומרים זה אלינו ואמרו Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. ונאמר כפדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל.
Now the prayer for peace and security, Hashkivenu. Let's read together, muted. Allow us, Adonai, our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us to life, O Sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us. Remove from us enemies, pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings, for you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you, God, are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace now and forever. May you spread over us your canopy of peace. Baruch atah Adonai, who spreads the canopy of peace over us, over all the people Israel, and over Jerusalem.
Shelter us in place, shelter us in peace, shelter us in love, shelter us in love, shelter us in place, shelter us in peace, shelter us in love, shelter us in love. Hashkivenu, Ya Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Lishalom. Hashkivenu, Ya Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Lishalom. Shelter us in place, shelter us in peace, shelter us in love, shelter us in love, shelter us in place, shelter us in peace, shelter us in love, shelter us in love. Hashkivenu, Ya Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Lishalom. Hashkivenu, Ya Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Lishalom.
We continue with Vishamru.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם.
Oti leolam.
Leolam.
אותי לעולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני
Asa Adonai.
את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש,
Shabbat
Vayinafash.
שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
olam.
Olam.
And so I've again placed into the chat the PDF link if you would like to go on your own and have a few moments of silent devotion for the Amida. In the meantime, Cantor, take it away. And we offer people the chance to place names into the chat for healing, for a special healing prayer. And I have to tell you that the things people are describing, their family stories are really just so amazing that we've all sort of come together at this point in this place because of their efforts. And a lot of luck.
I invite you to join me standing or rising in posture, holding in our hearts all that we yearn for, all that we wish for, those in need of healing, ourselves in need of healing, taking in the bountiful blessings that surround us, all around us, blessings of hope and love and peace. I rise in the presence of the infinite. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, breathing in blessings. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise in the presence of the infinite. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, seeking your spirit. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, breathing in blessings. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, hoping for healing. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, asking for answers. I rise, one with all the earth. I rise, breathing in blessings. I rise, one with all the earth. I invite you to take a deep breath and hold all that you yearn for, all that you hold forward in your prayers and your thoughts. Just hold it with you for a moment longer. As we continue.
Thank you so much, Katie. It's wonderful. To see these stories that people have been sharing is just really a gift. That you know, I'm going to collect those, and if it's okay with you, I'll share them with all of you after this Shabbat, because it really is nice. If you have a special reason not to share, please let me know, and I'll exclude your story. But there are so many in there already. We're going to talk a little more about HIAS Refugee Shabbat in a few minutes. I just want to actually hit on another subject beforehand. This has been just a you know, a horrible year in so many ways, but a banner year for the Israeli film industry. Probably in part because of all the streaming that's going on, but also because of the recognized excellence of Israeli movie making and television, for that matter, culminating to a degree last week at the Golden Globes. Not a lot of people watched the Golden Globes, surprisingly, according to their ratings, but one of the things that may have surprised you was seeing Shira Haas as a nominee for Best Actress for her series on Orthodox. That is just an incredible series, and you should watch it if you haven't already. And by the way, she also appears in Shtizzle, which is coming back for its third season. And that's at the end of this month. It's already on the schedule, I believe, for Netflix. So we've got a lot to look forward to. And, you know, of course, the looking forward to is not watching as much TV, by the way, but as long as we have to, there's some good things. But one thing has sort of gone under the radar, and it's a program that's on HBO Max. So it's definitely readily available for people around here. But you may not have seen it. It hasn't been a lot of discussion about it, at least in circles I've been in, and that is Valley of Tears, which was a series that was a phenomenon in Israel. It was definitely major news over there, and here wasn't front page headlines, and it partly because it's not that well done. The acting is not that great, although very famous actors are in it. Partly because there's some historical inaccuracies that people have wondered about. But anyway, Valley of Tears, called Shat Ne'ilah in Hebrew, the hour of Ne'ilah, which tells you already it has something to do with Yom Kippur, and in fact is about the Yom Kippur War in 1973. And the Yom Kippur War is known over here, of course, as a war that Israel did very well in. They won. But the early hours of the Yom Kippur War were hardly a guaranteed victory. In fact, Israel came as close as it ever has come to devastation, to catastrophe. And only a small group of tank commanders on the Golan Heights were able to prevent the Syrians from breaking through and cutting off Israel's supply lines and cutting the Galilee off, basically, from the rest of the country. It was that close. So this really struck a nerve when it was replayed, and this whole experience was replayed in Israel when Valley of Tears premiered over there. But as I said, it wasn't that well done. It sort of started as a comedy, as a buddy story, and ended up as a tragedy, which it needed to, because so many people died. That's part of the the tragedy of it. Part of the reason that it's so traumatic, that there is such PTSD about this war, is that 2,655 Israeli soldiers lost their lives in battle in the 73 war. It was in many ways the end of the period of, one might call, a Garden of Eden period in Israel between 67 and 73, when it seemed like they were invincible, when people went all over the country. I was in a youth group that, Ramah trip one summer, actually in 73, just a few months before the war. We were all over. We literally climbed Mount Sinai and went up, of course, the Golan, West Bank, everywhere, as if Israel were indestructible. Of course, they found out a few months later that that wasn't the case. Shattered hopes, shattered dreams, really a theme of that series. And I do, again, recommend that you watch it, as imperfect as it is. That's part of the perfection of it, that it's imperfect in a sense. And that's what we find out in this week's portion as well. Kitisa, where the children of Israel are at the foot of Mount Sinai. They're waiting for Moses to come down with the commandments. He's up there for a long time, and they get very impatient. And of course, the rest is history. The golden calf moment happens. The Talmud compares that golden calf moment with the disgrace, with what Christians call the fall, and there are some comparisons, of Adam and Eve after, of course, they had to leave the Garden of Eden. Moses comes down, all hell breaks loose, he smashes the tablets. God's blessing can't be given to idolaters, in fact, of course. And so the tablets and the dreams that they represent are now broken. And the Midrash in Shemot Rabbah sees this as a moment of paradise lost. Had they received the tablets, had this been consummated, Moses brings them down, God, of course, wrote them, gives them to the people. Had this marriage been consummated, then Jews would have had a worry-free history. Everything would have been great. Exile would have disappeared. Even death would have been perfect, would have been a return to the Garden of Eden. But at that moment, the calf happened. That original sin, in a Jewish sense, happened, and they returned to brokenness, to a frail humanity and a failed history that was permanently flawed. And that's what happened in 1973. Brokenness. So there's a real parallel here. But what if brokenness is part of the plan? What if failure is actually the way it was supposed to be? And the Talmud elaborates on this. It explains that the broken tablets weren't discarded. They could easily have thrown them out. They had recycling back then. But they were given a place of honor in the Aron that's being built in the wilderness. In fact, we read about it. We read about it the last couple of weeks. We'll read about it the next few weeks. In the middle of all this description of the Ark of the Covenant in the wilderness is this golden calf incident, which tells us that there's probably some kind of connection. The Maharal of Prague, some of you have seen the cemetery where he's buried, he expands on this idea, says that the ark anticipated the brokenness, at least the blueprints did, because the dimensions are for 2.5 cubits by 1.5 cubits. And having half a cubit wouldn't have been necessary with a full set of tablets. So the broken tablets required a half a cubit. They never expected, even in the blueprint, even in the way it was put together, they never expected to have a full set of tablets. They were always going to be broken. The brokenness was built into the plan. The Talmud talks about how we should honor brokenness in many ways. A rabbi who begins to sort of lose his connection to the material he's studying, whether because of age or illness or whatever, that rabbi is supposed to receive honor. Rabbi Shalom Luria was once asked if someone with broken limbs is qualified to serve as a chazan, as a prayer leader for the service. And he answered metaphorically that unlike humans, God prefers the service of broken vessels, for God will not despise a broken heart. Being physically broken doesn't injure the soul, and as the Kotzker Rebbe puts it in a very famous saying, there is nothing so whole as a broken heart. There was an Israeli surgeon by the name of Shmuel Yorfest. He was a skilled vascular surgeon who had saved the lives of many, including multiple victims of terror attacks. And then in May of 2003, he was outside a shopping mall when a suicide bomber blew himself up. And that attack blinded Shmuel and ended his surgical career. He stayed home for months, depressed at what he had lost, his profession, what seemed his very identity had been severed from him, had been stripped from him. All he did was sit on the couch, enveloped by sadness. One day his son turned to him and said, "Abba, is this what you want to do for the rest of your life?" And that's when Shmuel got off the couch, decided to put his medical training to good use, became a psychiatrist, and he once again began to practice medicine. And now he was helping others whose lives had been shattered. And with his personal example, he was teaching them and us that one can be broken and yet beautiful. Those shards of the 10 Commandments, those broken tablets, remind us of the brokenness of our condition, and that brokenness can be beauty. For as we know, from Leonard Cohen, there is a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in. Shabbat Shalom. All right. And so now, the sadness that we're thinking of tonight is the sadness of refugees. And we have a special reading that will precede the Kiddush. It's meant to precede the Kiddush and was put together by the HIAS organization, who have been doing these refugee Shabbats for the last several years. Of course, as I mentioned, HIAS has been bringing refugees, especially Jewish refugees, to our shores for a century or more. But especially over the last few years, they've really become much more active in defending the rights of refugees and all over the world, but especially those trying to get into our country legally. And so we want to show our support for them. The other thing that I mentioned in my email that I sent out, it's really important for us to show solidarity with over 450 other synagogues who have signed on to HIAS's mission, as we have, and as we did by a vote of our board a few years ago, especially because HIAS has become a target of hate. And it's through the sort of the magnet of HIAS that the Tree of Life Synagogue was attacked a couple of years ago in Pittsburgh, because of its support of HIAS. And so we respond not by running away from that support, but by embracing it and doubling down on it. And we not only double down on it in word, but also in action. And we have a very active task force. Belle, are you around? I think I saw you come in before. Would you like to do that reading for us? Belle Horowitz? If you can unmute yourself, it would be great. And then maybe talk about the project, and I'll also share it on the screen.
I apologize, Rabbi. I didn't see your request for me to do the reading.
Oh, that's quite all right. All right, so here it is. Would you like to? It's.
Sure, I just have to get my glasses.
Okay, you know what? If someone else from the committee would like to, anyone want to volunteer? I'm sorry, I sent it out this afternoon. This is what's known as last minute rabbi on Friday afternoon trying to prepare Shabbat.
Okay.
So I sent it a little late. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
But,
no problem. Thank
but
you.
anyway, this is, I think, really meaningful reading for us. And I would be honored if you read it for us.
Okay. We lift this cup with words remembering our ancestors' exodus from Egypt on our lips. As we recall,
Echer Litziat Mitzrayim. I'll do that part. Okay.
as we recall that ancient journey from slavery to freedom, we think also of the many times throughout history that our people have wandered in search of safety, from Tsarist Russia to the horrors of the Holocaust, to persecution in Iran, the former Soviet Union, Cuba, Ethiopia, and beyond. Time and time again, we have found ourselves forced out of our homelands for being who we are. But each time we were held together by community and assisted by those who risked their safety in protection of ours. We continue to survive against all odds as our hearts grew to hold others who would come to experience what we had. We fill our Kiddush cup to overflowing and hoping that the joy of Shabbat will spread into the week to come. And so it is as we welcome refugees and asylum seekers to our communities today. Recalling our exodus from Egypt, the Torah tells us, "You know the soul of the stranger." While our responsibility to protect the rights of refugees and asylum seekers does not derive from our experience in Egypt, that experience does amplify our obligation to welcome. May our commitment to welcome fill to overflowing, just as our Kiddush cup does, leading us to take bold action in support of refugees and asylum seekers from every corner of the earth. Just as the Jewish people have thrived, so too do today's refugees of all faiths, ethnicities thrive as they build their lives and become part of their new communities. We lift this cup and the words remembering the ingenuity of creation on our lips. Zikaron Lamash.
Masev Reshit.
We continue creating and repairing the world as we build our communities on the collective strength of each individual, remembering that we are stronger and strongest when we come together.
Thank you. And as you can see on the screen, this year's pet project of Refugee Shabbat and of HIAS working within the Jewish community is to rally around the idea of giving a message to Congress to welcome to Congress, that Congress be welcoming. We know that there is very important legislation that is now being discussed for the status of refugees and all immigrants. So we want to be on board and our congregation in a massive way. Now, our own representatives are very supportive of these efforts. It's not like we're trying to lobby them so much as to send a message to the world and to Congress that we as a congregation stand for this. So what I'm going to do is put this petition in the chat and recommend that you can see that Temple Bethel is already there. We filled it in for you. You can see that all of these congregations have signed up. And if you go up to Connecticut, look who's here, Temple Bethel. So all you need to do is do that. And after Shabbat, I'm going to put it in the chat right now, but after Shabbat, you just go ahead and send it out. And it would be wonderful to have so many from our congregation be involved. And that's the best lead. Belle, is there anything else you want to say? I'm sorry.
No, just that it's the form is really very easy to fill out. It's just literally putting your name, address, and clicking submit. And it would be great to have, just a really solid, support from members of the congregation that we stand behind.
Hey there.
Hi.
Yeah, let's mute unless you are actually part of this. Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
So that I think, again, as the rabbi said, we have in both of our senators very strong supporters of these policy issues, but we want other people across the country to know that we in fact support them and support them strongly. So it's not just a few members of the congregation who would be signing the letter. We're looking for everybody in the congregation to sign if possible.
Right. And thank you, Gail, for spelling out HIAS as Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society. So it is homegrown, and we want this response to be grassroots within our congregation as well. Thank you. Okay.
Rabbi, it's Pinchas. Can I just say something?
Yes, please do, Pinchas.
Actually, I myself and my parents were aided as refugees from Romania, and the HIAS helped us to get out of Romania in 1962. And they were of great help, both financially and organizationally and spiritually when we were in Vienna. And as a child, I remember HIAS as the name that kind of the savior. I remember my parents always said HIAS, HIAS, HIAS. Whatever we needed at that time was HIAS. So I'm a testament for HIAS action and
there we go.
Activity.
When we were just paying it forward. But yes, back then they were the only game in town and they were mainly helping Jews. Rosalie, I see two hands up, an electronic and a real one.
Yes, I wasn't sure you saw me. Many of you know that I'm involved in an interfaith organization here in Stamford. We have welcomed two families, one from Syria, who have since moved to Michigan, and presently we are working with a family from Afghanistan. I am the chief tutor for that child who is making wonderful progress, and they are just about financially sufficient after 2 years of being here and being supported by this organization. It is joyous work, and if anybody wants to get involved locally, just give me a buzz.
And the wheels are turning for a third one, right? We're trying to get a third one.
We're looking for a third family, exactly, where we put
Yes.
our bid in for a third family.
Is that Jake?
It is, just so people know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine. It's okay.
That unmuting keeps.
We're always very child friendly here. Okay, and that's in honor of in memory of Frank Rosner. I'm saying that we're very child friendly, right, Eileen? All right, so let's actually get to the Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho, be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים, כי באנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת.
Amen. And now, Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שעונות השמיים ויסד הארץ ומשב יקרו בשמיים ממעל חינת וזובר. הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, ממלכנו ופסלתו ככתוב בתורת.
And we are seated.
ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
And this week, we recall in loving memory the yard sites of Harry Abrams, Murray Abrams, Max Amster, Loeb Aronin, Richard Aronson, Deborah Berman, Albert Block, Mary D. Brown, Robert Stephen Colton, Sylvia Cowan, Rita Creedon, Susan Darer, Irving Edelstein, Zoltan Firestone, John Galt, Helen Goldrich, Irving Granowitz, Floyd Green, Ira Greenfield, Linda Greenfield, Judy Inger, Maxine Judd, Daniel Kaiser, Marion Koletsky, Ruth Kapchin, Jules Kaplan, William Katz, Frida Kravitz, Jack Kravitz, Leonard Libner, Abraham Lichtenstein, Irene Locker, Robert Mallon, Sarah Newman, Joseph Perlman, Dorothy Rubenfeld, Molly Siegel, Naomi Sennett, Morris Shapiro, Michael Sims, Benjamin Smith, Irving Smith, Gertrude Sofer, Ida Ross Sosnowitz, Donnie Sterenka, Maxine Tobias, Sherry Hope Harrison Waters, Ben Weinstein, Esther Winthrop, and Henrietta Wittenberg. And if we left any names out inadvertently, please feel free to put those into the chat. Those who mourn and those who recall Yahrzeit are invited to unmute and rise for the mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal, Yit Gadash, Shmei Rabbah, Yalmad, Yibrach, Yitei, V'yimlich Malchutei, V'chayechon, V'yomechon, V'chayei Kol Beit Yisrael, B'galach, V'zman Karim, V'imru, Amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shmei Rabbah, V'rach, Yolam Alomei Almayim. Yit Barach, V'yishtabach, V'yitba'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnatzeh, V'yitadar, V'yitdaleh, V'yithalal, Shmei D'Kudsha, Li'elam L'kol Birchatav V'shiratav, Tushmechatav V'nechematav, V'miran B'alma V'yimru, Amen.
Amen.
Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya, V'chayim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'yimru, Amen. Oseh Shalom V'rama, V'yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'yimru, Amen.
Amen.
V'imru, 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 amen. V'imru, 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 amen.
And just looking into the chat again, James Hers, and also yes, Steve Mayer passed away this week. I wrote about it in today's email. Former member of the congregation who helped us in so many ways over the years, and we definitely want to wish to him and his family our deepest sympathies. So thank you for putting that in there. Judy, no, this is a Judy, not a Judith.
This is Judy, not Judith.
This is Judy, right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Judy.
Thank you, everybody who participated tonight. Tomorrow morning, we have our Shabbat services led by Rabbi Hemmerman, Katie Kaplan, and the Devar Torah will be given by Rabbi Jerry. This week, coming up, we have a Pesach study with Rabbi Jerry Ginsburg at 1:30 on Mondays. The topic that he is doing for the last few times and now again is Passover, the Haggadah, and the Talmud, giving us a new meaning. There are 2 standalone programs this coming week. On Wednesday, March 10th, there is a heart-to-heart support group, Grief and Loss, led by Pamela Tinkham, and Hearing Men's Voices by TBE's Men's Club on March 11th at 7:30 p.m. It's an opportunity for the men of TBE to engage in open and honest dialogue on common issues that relate to family, work, health, their roles in society, and their Jewish identity. This information is available online in the weekly memo. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Judy. Would anyone like to add any other quick announcements? Just unmute and chat away. Okay, well, anyway. We do have Passover coming up, of course, and just a reminder that we'll be doing the second night Seder on Zoom. For now, that's what we want to do, and we also know that a lot of people don't have the ability right now to make plans to be with other people in person, or even if you are and you'd like to join with us, it'll be second night 7 o'clock. We'll send out registration forms and all that. But basically, it'll be free because you got to take care of your own food. But we also have great food options that our sisterhood has put together for this year. We're going to miss Abel, but we've got some good stuff. So anyway, just know that Passover is coming and look forward to that. Also, just to sort of save the date, Scott, you want to say a bit about the senator coming?
Sure, thanks, Rabbi. We are going to have a second town hall with one of our congregants, Senator Richard Blumenthal, on Tuesday night, April 6th at 7 p.m. And we're very pleased that we'll be doing this one co-sponsoring with Stamford Union Baptist Church. And it's also being co-sponsored by AJC and the Stamford chapter of the NAACP and Federation as well. And so flyers will be going out to everybody. You have to pre-register on Zoom to be part of it. And we look forward to everybody being there to listen to the senator. Should be very interesting. Thanks, Rabbi.
And our Lower East Side weekend is going to be really, really a lot of fun between the Tenement Museum and the deli food and the movie. And we're going to have a lot of fun. So you'll be hearing more about that. And we have some announcements out on that too. So definitely a lot happening. I see in the chat also TBE singers, men's club stuff. So take a look at all the stuff we've got going on.
There's some time before some of those, so
yeah, there is definitely time.
there's
Yes,
just
high holidays. Don't forget those.
don't forget, we're starting to plan those.
We're starting to plan those too. Okay.
Just kidding.
So unless anyone else wants to say anything, we're going to conclude.
Okay.
Please pass your books, and we'll be meeting in the lobby for the Kiddush.
And schmooze, yes.
For the schmooze, right? Yeah, I can get schmooze here after.
Oh, say shalom bimroma. Oh, yeah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'imru. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Oh, yeah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'imru. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Oh, yeah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. V'imru. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Oh, yeah, say shalom aleinu. Ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Ve'imru. Amen. If you're not on your feet but you want to join me, stand. Yeah, nine, nine, nine. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom to everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Beautiful
Yes.
service.
Shabbat shalom.
Oh yeah, Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom all. Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Hey.
Shabbat shalom.
The ice
We got-
maker.
that sounds
Shabbat
like
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
All right, let's try and
All
make
right,
it
I know where you are. Hi, Sam. Or maybe not. Are you there?
I am there. I am
Oh,
here.
really?
Wi-Fi is good.
It is.
That's wonderful.
Shabbat shalom.
Okay.
Shabbat
Hey,
shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Hi, Sophie.
That's fresh ice, Eric.
What's that?
That ice is very
Your
fresh.
ice maker was unmuted. Thank you.
Oh no, you probably just heard it through yours.
No, I
Oh,
didn't.
was it
I had to mute.
No, we all heard it, Eric.
We all heard it.
Well, just so we're clear, that's the first time I've used crushed ice in a long time, which is
I
why
was
that
gonna
was
say
that
you
loud.
never do that.
Well, the cups just came out of the dishwasher, so they're all warm.
That's good. Okay, I'm gonna turn off this recording now.
Yeah, seriously.
Why? We're just getting into the real key stuff. I mean,
There's nothing so broken as crushed ice.
Exactly. It goes with the theme.